It's a different car, but a familiar story nonetheless. The first two rounds have been won by two of the drivers who wound up winning many of the races in the Radical, Overbay and Padavani. But a track like Motorsport is notorious for not playing nice. Limited runoff, fast corners, and few passing zones will make this a challenge with today's large field. Could this bring a new face to the forefront of this battle? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 3 of the PRL Formula 3 Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Young. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Adam, we saw the GTE cars race here on Tuesday. Now it's the open wheelers' turn.
Yeah, and I tell you, if I ever had to race Motorsport in real life, I probably would want some fenders. But no, we're going to take these F3s around here for today. Track's going to get slick as the race goes along, so it's going to be interesting. And we are, of course, running the 2.5 mile Motorsport, or just under 4 kilometers if you look at that measurement, 10 turns here in Ontario for today. So this track's very famous. There's a saying that you don't hit anything soft at Motorsport. Well, let's just see how kind of limited runoff they do have here as we take a lap around the GSRC F3 car.
All right, we've got John Ambrose in the GSRC Formula 3, so let's do a lap around Motorsport. Turn 1 is simple in these cars. Keep your foot in it. Stay flat out. Don't take too much exit curb and then get back across to the right for Clayton. If you have the guts, there's no brakes needed, only a lift over this blind double apexer. Just know if it goes wrong, it's likely to do so in a big way. Once again, you've got to switch sides, and finally you'll apply some brakes for Quebec, but not a lot. As you can imagine, passing is likely to be difficult here. Do your best to get a good run off of this long right-hander, because now, as we fly through 4, you're coming up to the braking for Moss hairpin. Overtakes can be possible, but the compression at the bottom of the hill makes it a very short braking zone. It's much better to focus on getting a good exit because of the long run up the Andretti straight. Not only is it quite a climb uphill, but these cars give off a pretty big slipstream, making everyone vulnerable to attack. The majority of pass attempts will probably happen or start here. However, if you're side by side by the time you come to the S's, it's going to be a game of chicken. This is yet another corner where all you need is a lift going in, but drivers on the outside can sometimes hang on and have the inside for turn 9 where you'll finally be braking. Each successive corner tightens up until eventually you come to whites. Beware of the inside curb, carry your momentum, and hopefully you've now finished a lap around Motorsport. Laps around here go by very, very quickly, even though these are Formula 3 cars, so these are a few rungs down the ladder in terms of open wheel power, and yet still just can fly around this place. But the PRL Formula 3 Series is brought to you by Apex Button Box. This season, all drivers who complete at least 8 races will be entered into a random drawing to receive a free button box. It is Apex Button Box's goal to be able to provide an affordable, reliable button box to those who do not have the time or materials to create their own. To find out how you can get your hands on one, check them out at facebook.com/Apex Button Box. Big thanks to them for sponsoring this season. And let's take a glance at the points situation, of course. Well, take a glance, I should say. Let's listen to them here real quick. The leader of the points right now with 1 win in his hand is Jefferson Padavani. Behind him, 1 win in his hand is Michael Overbay. Only 5 points separate the two of them. And then 1 point back from them, Jose Malbron, still very close in it in third. From there, Montini and Cota, of all people. Usually we expect to see Takeshi finish, maybe 15, 16, somewhere around there most races. Well, he is certainly a fast driver here in the Formula 3, so we'll see how he fares today. In the meantime, what about the Teams Championship? Adam, how's that looking?
Yeah, well, no surprise, considering the fact that Padavani, Overbay, and Malbron are all racing for Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing. Well, Geodesic Racing is at the front of those standings. They have a pretty good 50-point lead over Crash for Cash. God, I love that name. And then in third place, Tizing New Master Team. They're 71 points off the lead, but only 21 points off second place. Leadfoot Racing is sitting in fourth, and Rincon V Racers are sitting in fifth. Should tell you that there's only 12 points that separate third through fifth. So those battles are going to be pretty tight here, especially as we start entering the mid part of the season.
And if you haven't watched this series before, well, it is a timed race. So 45 minutes that they'll be running out here in these cars. And we should note that they have no spare car as well. So these drivers need to take care of their equipment. We talked about, Adam said, there's very few soft things to hit around here. Well, I got to tell you that you really don't want to damage your car because you got to come in and get it repaired. Of course, also, there is an incident limit at 24. Now, granted, you're not going to have too many offs in the grass for those and be able to come away with a whole car. So, again, got to keep your stuff together. As always, this series is brought to you on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe when you get an opportunity. All you got to do is go to their YouTube page, click on the big red button that says subscribe, which will be red if you haven't clicked it yet, and then you'll get all of this PRL Formula 3 series in your YouTube feed. On track right now, drivers are out and qualifying, and Kevin Santana is up at the front, continuing his turn of speed in these cars. Andre Espinoza currently flanking him. But I think one of the talking points is you're not going to be able to get away from people just by being up at the front here, because I said something in my intro, Adam. There is a lot of cars here for such a short lap.
You know, there is. And being for such a short lap and a relatively short course, there's a lot of drafting that goes on here. So, you know, it's lap traffic's going to play a role, and it's going to be hard to get away from the guy because they'll be able to draft up to you too. So right now, looking at Santana over top of Espinoza, I mean, there's not even a tenth of a second there to separate those two. Now, when we get into the racetrack, we get in a race situation, that's going to even out. But, you know, I don't think that's going to even out very well at all. In fact, looking more at practice times here today, David Holland set a great practice time. We're going to go ahead and nix him as an outlier and look at second place on down. And second place on down, I mean, you've got four cars that were within a tenth of a second each other. So second, third, fourth, fifth in practice, all within a tenth of a second. So that's going to play a role here today, in addition to the lap traffic. A few passing zones here for today. I mean, really only have two, and that being Moss and going over to turn 8. It's going to be tight. You know, they widened this track back a couple decades ago, bringing it out to the you know, the normal FIA width. But at the same time, when you get out there racing with this many cars on the track, it's going to narrow up in a hurry.
Yeah, certainly, especially with how fast some of these corners are. I can't imagine there's too many different lines that you can take. Santana ups his fastest lap, extends the pole farther away from the 87 of Espinoza by about a tenth now, just under a tenth officially between the two of them. I'm kind of waiting to see Overbay to get a little bit higher up because he looked pretty fast in practice. Same thing with Padavani as well, didn't look too slow, at least in the warm-up. So I'm kind of surprised to see they haven't put themselves higher than 9th for Overbay. And actually, where is Padavani? Trying to figure out where he is currently gridded. It's like 11th. Wow.
Yeah, so a couple of these guys definitely deep in the field. Padavani right now, as you mentioned, sitting 11th. We're seeing him go over the top of Moss right now. And Overbay not much better. So, and these guys are consistently a couple of tenths off of what they were in practice. Now, Overbay here, watching Overbay, he's getting ready to come across the finish line here in just a moment. Very curious to see if he sets his best time, because just eyeballing it here, he looks to be pretty quick on this lap, so we'll see what he comes across as. And nope, actually it's 2 tenths slower than what he was before, and gets knocked down a spot as Andrew Wood goes ahead and moves up in the 8th position.
We're watching Padavani abandon that lap. They can get back out and put a couple more in since the laps are just over a minute long. They've just got to hustle and get out there now, though, if they want the most of the opportunity. Espinosa's last lap did not count, so he must have been on a warm-up for him as he comes around Quebec and starts to head steeply downhill through turn 4. Now, we were listening to them talk about turn 4 before the race, and this sounds like it's going to be a little bit of a danger zone for the drivers.
Yeah, there's a very well-known area where you can hit and it will damage your car, especially cars that are low to the ground, like an open-wheel F3 machine. You may not even know it from the cockpit, but all of a sudden you're going to be going slower, particularly down the straights, as it damages your under tray of the vehicle, ruins your ground effects, all that kind of stuff. I've seen it here numerous times in anything that's low slung. Most famous to me of which is the Nissan GTP that you'll see in the Camel GT series. That's notorious for messing up the front end of those machines. So that'll be something that we'll watch here as F4. If you see any cars with wing damage and don't know where they made contact, it might be a little bit of a bump in going up into 4 that causes it.
We'll keep an eye out for that. We rode on board with Espinosa as you were talking. His last lap was not faster, 0.3 slower than his best. And on top of it, Kevin Santana has just about extended it to 0.2 above Andre at this point. So the 666 has figured out something at this track that everybody else has not. And I think Santana is abandoning his current lap and has towed, so he is done for the day with qualifying. He can't get out to start a new flyer. It is now up to everybody else to try and go faster than him. Francisco Montini, currently sitting in 4th and coming through the S's, he could have an opportunity. He's only 2.5 tenths behind Santana.
Yeah, definitely going to try to push it here, but let's see what he got.
No, that was an out one, looks like.
Yeah, it's out lap. Okay, so, but still, though, I mean, that's 1 minute, 10 seconds here. Qualifying's coming to a close, but since he's able to start the lap, he should be able to finish it here as well.
Yes, has this one more to go. Watching Andrew Wood, who currently sits in 8th position. And I was watching Jefferson Padavani just start a lap, so we'll check him a little bit later as the checkered flag just now comes out. So drivers are now finishing their qualifying. They're able to complete this hot lap that they're on. Jay Steffi down in 17th, going to be the first to cross. He does not improve his time. Looks like Aaron Webb also not going to be able to improve. Andrew Wood, though, who we continue to watch, sitting in 8th, just at the end of his lap. His fastest is a 109.4. He comes up to whites, gives a little bit of berth to that inside curb, crosses the line, and does not go faster. Francisco Montini not happy with his last lap. He comes in, so does Gritzko. Andy Spicer going to try and complete this one. He sits in 15th currently at 109.9. Does not go any faster. A 110.2. Well slower for him on that last lap. Cristelli improves up to 12th.
Just a touch, but hey, I'll take a touch. That's another position.
Padavani crosses. He does go faster.
Herbert's trying to get himself out of the back end of the field here and does not improve his time.
So
Padavani loses it, so we can count him out.
Well, he's already taken a checkered flag.
Yeah, right. He wasn't coming around. Yeah, so you're right.
And he did set a faster time, but he only put himself up to 11th, just behind his teammate, Michael Overbay. I do not see anybody else out on track, so it is time to go to our starting grid for today. Kevin Santana on the pole. What can he do with this? Could he be the third different driver to win in the first 3 races? Espinosa is going to try to stop him from the outside of the front row. David Holland will be starting in 3rd with Francisco Montini in P4. Nicholas Delp starts in 5th position with Federico Montini, P6. Then it's Christian Gritzko in 7th, followed by Andrew Wood in 8th. Jose Malbron, 3rd in the points, but all the way down in 9th in the qualifying, is followed by Michael Overbay, who will round out our top 10.
Yeah, and starting in the 11th position here for today in row 6, you'll find your points leader, Jefferson Padavani. Alongside him, Jerome Bartholomew. David Cristalli in 13th position. Alongside him, Takashi Kita in 14th. Andy Spicer and Aaron Webb will make up row 8. Row 9's going along to Jay Steffi and Matthew Gunderson. In row 10, Christopher Richards and Marco Oliveira.
It's okay. Eric Luke starts 21st with Mike Richter in 22nd. Charles Sumner will be P23. Karsten Quinn in 24th as we start to get around White's Corner where they're doing this standing start, by the way. Paul Wildridge will be there too in 25th. Tyler Gore in 26th and Phil Yeoman in 27th position. Then it's Daniel Barnett, P28, David Hebert in 29th, and Scotty Zirk in 30th. From there, all the drivers behind did not get a lap in. Owen McLaughlin looks like he's not in session. Not sure that he's going to be able to take the start. Mark Feil is here. He'll be 31st. And Craig Holden is in 32nd. So with that, we're waiting for the rest of the field to grid up. And we'll get running for 45 minutes here for round 3. As the lights come up, the engines start to rev. Green flag is out. Not the greatest of starts for Kevin Santana initially, but the car finally hooks up just to keep Espinoza at bay as they start to swing down around the full throttle turn 1 in these cars. And then they come up to the terrifying Clayton. I see one car in the background going off at the first corner. We got multiple cars up at the front off. It is Francisco Montini into the barrier. He's joined by another car who hits him. That's Christopher Richards, Paul Wildridge as well, and Nicholas Delp. 4 cars taken by the wall in the very first lap.
It just seemed like it was like a bunch of almost, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it, almost a bunch of follow the leader coming right off the corner back there.
I thought you were going to go to Lemmings diving off the
Lemmings,
cliff.
I guess that works too. But, you know, it's so easy through there to get fixated on the car. Who is that losing it? Andy Spicer,
yeah,
7th in points.
He unfortunately spun on his way into Moss, but you can see the leaders already heading into the S's. That side-by-side battle on screen is Gritzko going the long way around of Montini, Federico Montini, I should clarify, and he makes it stick. Christian moves himself into P4.
Kevin Santana has been able to build himself up just a little bit of a lead. He's not out of that draft at all, but David Holland is going to be able to take that second place away from Andres Espinoza and still remain in the draft year leader. Kevin Santana there running in 4th right now. Christian Gritzko and Federico Montini running 5th.
And Holland did that on the front stretch. Not often that you see passes like that, especially in cars like these along that portion of the circuit. So Holland has got the bit between his teeth. Now can he try and run down Santana now that he has clear air between himself and the leader? And a mistake like that will definitely help. In fact, Santana is in the wall. He's off the track. He gets it going once again, but he definitely hit the concrete.
That changes things a little bit. We're going to go on board here with Kevin Santana. It just looks like the back end just kind of wants to break around on him coming out of the Moss section there and backs it into the concrete.
They warned the drivers the first few laps, these tires are going to feel very cold and slippery, and I think he suffered from that one. And ooh, that car has got way more damage now that he's lost it through the S's. So that is going to be it for him. Holland sets the fastest lap of the race up at the front and starts to pull away from Espinoza. Meanwhile, Wood and Padavani seem to have traded positions, and now Padavani almost gets into the car of Kita, who also finds the wall.
That tire barrier tore up the left side of his car.
Let's watch it from above. Did he actually push him off, or did Kita just react and hard to tell from that angle there. Because it seemed like Cota, looks like unfortunately we don't have our blimp shot, but it looked to me like he just reacted and put himself in the grass, but it's hard to tell. Regardless, this is a very high attrition rate for the first 3 laps.
It is, and I just went back and looked at it, Joe, there, is that it almost looked like it was a little bit of net code. There was a little bit of room there to be able to make things work, but it ended up being that net code ended up being one that pushed him off there, and no luck on his side.
There we saw it on the screen. Oh, just sideways sliding through the grass. There's no stopping that car, unfortunately. As we come back live on Holland, still 7/10 ahead of Espinosa, but look at Grits go. He is now into third, having started this race in P7, and is actually putting pressure on Espinosa.
And while we were away watching that, Federico Montini ended up having a problem going through whites, I think it was whites here, drove off the track and into the concrete or tire barrier, and I think his day is going to be done.
Montini brothers once again not getting a good way to kick things off early in the race. So we continue to watch our podium, which I should also mention, behind Gritsko, it is a long ways back to fourth place Malbron, who's still giving chase, and actually is in a nice little battle himself with Wood.
Yeah, and Gritsko started this race in 7th position, so being able to stay out of trouble. In fact, he's going to go ahead and take second away from Andres Espinosa here.
As soon as we look away, of course. And that all started with Espinosa going a little bit wide, and Clayton, thankfully not getting it into the grass like many others have done already, saved the car but could not save the position. Let's take a look at it on replay. Comes a little wide. Really has to get out of it. Look at that. Go was quick to react to that and slips ahead, but this has lost them distance to Holland. It is now a 1.5 seconds from P1 to P2.
And Andres Espinosa is not giving up here. He almost drafted up to the back end of them there before they got into the S's. I think backed off of it just to make sure there was no problems there.
A little bit of a battle.
Other spots changing hands here.
Yeah, this is for 14th. Tyler Gore to the inside, coming into turn 8.
Padovani's around. Padovani's facing the wrong way on the front straightaway here. He's going to get it straightened out. Who's that behind him? Marco Olivieri ends up having a problem too going through whites.
Yeah, and there were two separate incidents. We're going to watch the replay, I believe, of Padovani here. Ooh, that looks like curbing.
It does, and that concrete definitely twisted that nose. Now that nose would be repairable if he can hang on here for a little while.
Yeah, and we didn't mention that they have one scheduled stop for fuel in these cars that they have to take during this race. They cannot get to the end on the fuel tanks. So we will have an opportunity to come in and not lose too much, since everybody else will have to come in as well. But you can see Padovani now down to 11th after gaining a few by the attrition that's been going on.
You know, in a lot of road racing series, people will circle Motorsport as the one that can turn championship battles on its head. Now, granted, we're only a couple races into the season, but a lot of your front runners and points having problems here today.
I tell you what, we made a big deal out of the number of cars that are here, and if that is going to cause problems with traffic. Well, of our 33 starters, we only have 22 still out there, so that solves that problem in a way.
I think we'll still have some issues later.
Undoubtedly. They did even, in the drivers' meeting before the race, warn the drivers to obey the blue flags and be nice to those leaders when they come up behind them. Let's watch the run down into turn 4. This
in fact, our leader... Go ahead. Our leader, David Holland, has just passed the first lap car of the race. That being Phil Gilman. He's out there running in 25th position, 2 laps down, but the leaders have already caught him.
Yeah, it looks like Gritsko is going to very quickly catch them as well. And Tyler Gore has also had an issue in Moss. Now, he took a tow. I'm assuming he's had some big damage. Oh, yes, he is. We'll see on the replay here. And he's joined by...
Marco again.
Yeah, oh, boy. Marco was just put out of his misery there. I think this is, once again, 2 separate incidents.
Well, it was, except Marco ended up joining the incident here. He's going to run off, going up into whites. He's going to put a wheel off, and he's going to end up catching that disabled car that's on the side there. Almost launches him up into the concrete.
Ooh, yeah, it did. And unfortunately for Marco, this was something of a home race. One of our Canadian drivers, many of them in this series, unfortunately, uh, have exited early already. So make that now, I believe, 19 cars left instead. Whew, this one has bitten a lot of people. David Holland is not one who has fallen victim quite yet. He is still leading and nearly by 3 seconds over Christian Gritzko. Now, Gritzko was one of the drivers who managed to win in the Radical. I'm sure he'd love to pair that with a win here in the Formula 3, but he's going to have to pick up the pace if he wants to get it today.
You know, and let's go ahead and give a shout out to two guys here that they're running in the back of the cars that are running, but they are still running, and for the most part clean. They've been able to avoid all the trouble happening around them. David Hedberg, who we went to in the qualifying session, tried to get out of the back of the field. He couldn't do it, but he's already moved up from 29th to 15th with the attrition going on around him. And in front of him is Mark Feil, who's running in 13th position. He started this race in 31st. So two big movers right there.
I guess if you keep it on the black stuff and keep it clean, then eventually it should come your way at a place like this. So kudos to both of them as we watch Mark Feil work his way down through turn 4 into Moss up to 13th position, and actually potentially could get another because he's not too far behind 12th place driver Mike Richter and the number 51. You could see him chasing him up the Mario Andretti straight. Not close enough for a draft, but we'll see what the next few laps hold.
So today here so far, David Holland running in first. We haven't mentioned this yet, but Gritzko is his teammate, and they are definitely looking to maybe make a move up. They were sitting fourth in the point standings going into this thing with them both running 1-2. It's going to give them a pretty good jump there in points.
I'd say so, considering Overbay is currently down in 16th. And, well, Padavani, I was going to say, was in 11th, but now he's had something happen again. And,
just running through Clayton, ran wide.
He just became a spear here. And watch this. The tires sucked him in, and there was no coming out of this one.
I don't think I've ever seen a car put two wheels off in Clayton and come out of it completely unscathed by anything. I mean, that's it. Once you put wheels off, you're a passenger, and Padavani just proved it.
I've managed it once or twice.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
You should have documented it.
Meanwhile, as we go to the battle for, I believe this was 7th, Gunderson managed to get by the car of Aaron Webb. Let's take a look at the replay, how this happened. This is coming up into the S's. Gunderson around the outside, which becomes the inside in 9. Smooth as you like. And that moves the number 33 up one more. In fact, Aaron Webb, now that we're back live, already has more company because Eric Luke is approaching.
And David Holland, now he's got a 3.3 second lead, but it was a 4 second lead. Just had a moment going up through Moss with the lap car. Scotty Zerk was trying to give him room, but slowed up on him on the exit of the corner. Really, really slowed up your leader, David Holland.
On screen, though, I think we're going to see a pass because Eric Luke has got the run. Starts to run out of steam, though, now that they hit the end of the straightaway. And he falls back behind Aaron Webb. Even if he doesn't get this position, I'd just like to point out that Eric Luke is another of our climbers. 21st on the grid. He did set a lap, and now he's 9th. This could be 8th as he closes on the front stretch, but another little lift. He's waiting for a little bit more of a solid moment.
I mean, you've already moved yourself up from 21st to 9th position. You're going to have a little patience here.
I'd say so. This is a great drive by the number 9 car. They're also going to approach some of this traffic. Wildridge tries to stay out of the way, off to the side through Quebec, and they can continue on with their fight. This is one of our closest fights, really, in the top of the field. These two battling.
Paul Woolridge is rumbling, tumbling, fumbling up toward Moss. Up on his lid, over and barrel rolled several times.
Let's see if we can find the replay of this. And this was thankfully a lone car incident. Whoa!
Hit that concrete and dug into the dirt, and up and over he went. That's another one of the Crash for Cash cars out of this one.
I'm not sure if he's going to get any cash today, but he completed the first part of the team name, it seems. So Paul Wildridge, unfortunately, taking to the pits before he wanted to. So we take a look at Andrew Wood trying to chase down Jose Malbron for P4. Just about half a second separate these two.
Oh, Eric Luke off. We were just talking about him. He spears coming out of Clayton. He's over on his lid.
Oh, what a shame. He was awful close behind. I kind of wondered if this would be an issue. Is the wake something you got to watch out for if you trail too closely on the car ahead?
I mean, you're already on the ragged edge through there as you come wide, and that very well could have led to a little bit more of a tighter condition for him. And we know aero push is a big thing with open wheel cars, and I would not be surprised if that was the culprit. You just kind of got to anticipate that and know what's going to happen. And here, the margin for error is just so little.
Well, Adam, do you want to hop in your practice car? I think you could get a top 20 if you get out there by now.
I know, right? I mean, I can get out there right now and be okay.
30 minutes left to go. We're only a third of the way through this race, which is still led by Holland. Gritzko, who you see on your screen, running in second place, still about 4 seconds down from David, but he's pulled away from the driver behind in third. Espinoza not been able to challenge. He's about 3 seconds behind Christian. So the chase is still on for our podium, but they've got to close up if they want to make it a little bit more intense. On screen right now, we're watching Mark Feil being chased by Mike Richter. They come down into Moss corner. Feil staying a little bit defensive there. Now onto the Mario Andretti straight. I think Richter's got a decent run. Is this going to be enough slipstream to be able to attack? We hop onto the maroon-colored car.
Attack, yes. Complete the move, maybe not. I think he's going to go ahead and not really push the issue right there.
Yeah, it didn't look like he was nearly close enough by the time they swung into the S's. Out of White's corner. In fact, he falls back slightly. Just a few more hundredths. So it looks like Scotty Zerk, judging by his car, has found the wall as well. We're going to see this at the end of the back stretch coming into turn 8. You can see him coming off of Moss here in the replay up the Mario Andretti straight. And this looks almost like what we've been seeing in Clayton, where it looks like he understeers and suddenly finds the grass, and from there it's lights out.
Yeah, it actually looked like there he might have had it saved thanks to that runoff there, but then he hits an extra strip of concrete and throws the back end up, or grass, throws the back end up in the air, and, well, that's all she wrote.
So who all do we even have left now? We've got 14 cars on the lead lap, but we do have a few still running around who've been put a few laps down. Looks like Holden and Guillaume have repaired their cars and gotten back out. So that leaves us with 16, if I'm not mistaken. That is less than half the field that started this when the green dropped. On screen, this is Malbron and Wood still fighting for 4th place. Right on board with Andrew Wood. Started 8th. Car ahead Malbron started 9th in the field.
let's give you an idea here of the attrition. Out of your top 10 in points, the only 2 that I think are still running are David Holland, of course, he's leading right now, and Jose Malbron, who's running in 4th. Oh no, Cristalli! I miss Cristalli. He's still out there running in 6th position.
Yeah, we haven't hardly given him any screen time. He's also come forward a fair bit.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah, I don't think he wants the cameras on him. The 009 started the race in 13th position. Now up to 6th, as Adam mentioned. Meanwhile, Wood just could not seem to do anything. We've jumped over to Cristelli there to give him a little bit of love on the cameras.
And Overbay. Overbay's still out there too. So that's 4 cars still running out of your top 10 in points. So 6 out of your top 10 are out of this thing.
What I'm trying to figure out with Overbay is, has he taken a scheduled stop?
Well, I know he came in, I think, to get the nose repaired.
Ah, okay.
I think.
Yeah, I'm seeing 15 laps on this stint, so this is...
So yeah, that wasn't going to be early enough. He's still probably going to have to come in at this point.
Going to be a little bit of a... Well, I say a little bit of a bad day, but I mean, he could still finish in the top 10 the way things are going. So damage limitation, if anything, for the number 68, who we ride on board with currently.
You say damage limitation, but he's actually one of the quicker cars out there right now. Oh, Andres Espinosa, he's in the grass. Is he able to keep it out of anything? He is. He's going to lose a couple spots, but he survives.
Wow. This looked very similar to Wildridge. Let's look at the replay. And, you know, we talked about those bumps on the way down through turn 4. I wonder if he found one. Yeah, look at that. Great heads up, though. He kept it pointed forward, stayed calm, and got it wound up.
It really looks like either... No, he went over that bump that we're talking about. It's a little asphalt patch right there. Back end kind of hopped a little bit, and next thing he knows, he has that left front wheel in the grass, and he's trying to hang on.
This shuffles him down into P5. Malbron now moves on to the podium. So he's in 3rd, but how long can he hold on to it? Because Andrew Wood is going to be even thirstier, I think, to try and steal that away. And in fact, he's getting closer now. This is the closest we've seen Andrew Wood. He could have an opportunity down into Moss if he's really desperate. But both of them are going to stay off in the racing line. Malbron trying to square off that second apex, get himself a good run. A little wheel spin for Andrew Wood. Unfortunately, denies him the opportunity up the Mario Andretti straight. So he's got to collect himself and try again later. I think we should be getting some pit stops pretty soon, as we're now past the halfway point. Before we get to those pit stops, I do see that we have our pole sitter ready to join us and talk a little bit about what exactly happened. Kevin, you managed to have the 1 lap speed, but then it seems that 1 lap passed by in the race, and then on the second one, it all went bad on you.
Yeah. These things don't drive like a GT car.
Certainly seems not, but you clearly are quick in them. I mean, what do you think you need to do to be able to get a W in this series? Because you've proven yourself to be one to watch out for.
I got to kind of learn the cars. This is only my 3rd racing, they said.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to learn pretty quickly here, because it sure would feel good to see you get a win as we watch Gunderson's replay here, another victim of Clayton as he finds himself nosed into the tires. Commiserations on today. Hopefully we'll see you in a week's time when we come back for round 4.
I'll be here.
Kevin Santana, our pole sitter, but now DNF'd here in the race. We're back live now, still waiting on the first of our scheduled stops to come on in.
Pretty much the only car I've seen actually come in for what looked like a scheduled stop was Charles Summer. I believe that'll place him being now the first car 1 lap down. Well, no, actually, Haber is in front of him. They're actually racing for position 1 lap down.
Yeah, and Sumner was the one I was just mentioning, saying we got a battle for 12th. David, just ahead of him, manages to get a much better exit off of Moss to keep him back. But if you're right, and I think you are, yeah, about 5 seconds in his pit stall, Charles is going to want to try and put David behind him very quickly since Hebert is not yet pitted. And he's not going to pit this time as well, much to the dismay of Charles. The Florida driver gets awful close to the gearbox, but not close enough with a short front stretch. Got to watch out for the wake of the car ahead. No, he doesn't, because he's going to dive to the inside, down into Clayton, sneaks it in there, and takes the spot.
Haber, he almost was one another victim there, putting the right sides off, but he was able to hold it.
Tell you what, that was decisive stuff. I did not expect him to make the move there. Just whipped it over to the left side, stuck the nose in, and then said goodbye. As that was happening, Jose Malbron pitted from 3rd place. He comes out in P6, but he is ready to go to the end. See Mark File also just finished his stop. Pit stops very, very quick in these Formula 3 cars. Just a dash of fuel, and then you're back out and gone. Ooh, looks like Wood and Espinoza have come in. So many of our front runners now electing to take their scheduled pit stop. Wood is already out. Espinoza, Espinoza's in long.
It looks like he's taking tires here. And I think I saw something happen on his right front wing there, so I think maybe he was getting a wing repair also.
Yeah, I guess he maybe knew that he was lacking that and figured if he's going to be in there long, might as well take those tires. Webb finishes his pit stop. Looks like he will return around 10th place. Our highest pitter currently is Andrew Wood, who sits in P4. Now, did Wood jump Malbron in the pits, though? Wasn't Malbron ahead of him? I believe that's the case. I think Andrew managed to get him in the pit stops.
And get him actually by a pretty good margin.
Yeah, I'm looking at the pit comparison, and they're not drastically different. In fact, they're incredibly similar. So Wood did this one simply by the leapfrog, just by pace out on track.
Well, take it any way you can get it. Not going to complain about it.
Well, I think this is very deserved, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how quickly he's dropped him. He's continuing to pull away. Malbron is now 1.3 seconds behind. So Wood was playing the patient game.
Okay, so I'm comparing his in-lap here. And Andrew Wood's in-lap was, it looks like 7/10 of a second faster than Malbron.
Wow.
And what's your difference out on track right now?
About 1.6 now. So
yeah, there you go.
Man, he turned up the wick on that one then. He really was being held up by Malbron. The difficulty in passing here becoming all the more apparent. Christian Gritzko, who was in 2nd place, takes his pit stop, and I believe he should easily come out in 2nd place because, yep, Andrew Wood, rather, is still coming to the pit entry now. David Cristelli also now in and taking his stop. Very few drivers left that need to come in for fuel. Cristelli back out. Jay Steffi also in. We're now waiting on Holland and Hebert. Holland's going to oblige. In comes our leader.
Another spot where he should definitely not lose anything here. Now you talk about somebody that's turned up the wick. Once he started to separate, he really started just set consistent low 109, low and mid 109s, and just set sail. I mean, unless something drastic happens here, it's going to be a 1-2 for Leadfoot Racing.
No doubt Holland is back out on the track, and unfortunate for Gritzko, he's got lap traffic in front of him and has been held up slightly. Now, he wouldn't have been all that close in the first place. Now you could see that car getting out of the way. That was Hebert, actually, who were also waiting to pit.
Oh, Hebert once again getting really close to that grass.
Flirting with disaster. The number 16 able to live another day. Let's watch this one once more.
That's about his 6th or 7th life, I think, at this point.
He came in a little bit offline, and he got the wake from the car head to boot, so that certainly didn't help. A great heads up by the Mid-South driver to not lose the car. Eventually, though, he's going to have to come in and take some fuel because he still hasn't come in. Everybody else has. So I think now that we've got a sense of our gaps, why don't we start to run down through the top 10 with this 14 minutes left to go. David Holland is our leader, and he started this race in 3rd place. He's now up to 1st after those around him fell by the wayside. He passed his teammate, who's behind him now, by a pretty big gap of 9 seconds, Christian Gritzko, who himself qualified 7th and has managed to show that this is going to be a deserved 2nd place, considering how solidly he has pulled away from the rest of the field. He's also 9 seconds ahead of the next car. Andrew Wood completing the podium. He was incredibly patient, waiting behind Jose Malbron for a long time before the pit stops happened. Finally pumped in a good lap or two and then jumped him in the pit stops to take 3rd away. Malbron himself is still within touching distance. Actually, he's closed the gap slightly since we last looked. I wonder if this is due to traffic since we just saw them go by a car. But he's about a second behind Andrew Wood. Malbron still will be taking home some good points. 5th place is Andre Espinoza. Then you get to some really big gaps, 12.5 seconds back to the number 87 car, who started on the front row, not performing as well here in the race. Adam, what do the next 5 look like?
Yeah, looking at from 6th position on now, find now Michael Overbay, who's been able to recover into 6th position. He found himself well down in the running order earlier, but we do believe he's going to have to make another pit stop before the end of this thing, as trouble struck him early. Another car that's out there, hey, he's up 6 spots from where he started. That's going to be David Cristelli, starting 13th. We're getting into a very quiet 7th place position here today. And I tell you what, if it's been a quiet day for you, it's been a good day. That's the way things have gone here at Motorsports so far. Mike Richter, he's going to be, Aaron Webb now going to be in 8th position, as there's Overbay making his stop as we're watching Cristelli jump up to 6th. So now your new eventual 7th position is going to be Aaron Webb. He started the day in 16th position. He's got a clean car out there so far. Mike Richter trying to move up now into 9th position as Overbay is now rolling off of his pit stop. That'll be the only time we see him down pit, or not last time we see him down pit road here for today, as you're looking at Aaron Webb go around him there on pit exit. There's Mike Richter, one of our big movers, started the day in 22nd position, be able to keep a clean car. He's now moved up into 9th, and Mark Feil, this is the big mover, up 22 positions from the start of this thing, up in the 10th spot, with just keeping a calm, quiet, consistent runs every single lap out of Mark Feil here today. So good run from him.
Just because I'm pretty sure that Bill Zahn is probably watching and asking, but did he qualify? The unfortunate answer is no, he did not qualify. So File did come from the back of the grid regardless. I think it's all about how you finish the race, not about how you start. File is proving that here today. A note about Overbay as well. He settled into 8th place when all was said and done. Oh, and a car ahead of him spinning. That's Aaron Webb. Make that 7th place. The number 85 pointing the wrong way on the front stretch.
Ooh, just hop that inside curve a little bit, coming out of the last corner there, and just around he went. Overbay was probably thinking there, not again, as he was seeing that car on the inside.
Let's watch from on board. He also touched the concrete wall twice, it looks like. Man, just that little touch is all it took. And John Ambrose, one of our commentators here who's very experienced in this car, knows a lot about the tires, is always telling us you don't want to touch the curbs, that so much of the suspension travel is in the bounciness of the tires. We watch this battle on screen. This is between Richter and File, and File's going to get another spot up to P8 now.
Clicking them off one by one.
Just unreal. They
do
have
have the leader just behind him. David Holland is coming up behind him. Oh, is Mike Richter. He has to go the outside of Mike Richter through the S's. David Holland does. And next up will be Mark File.
And don't forget Jay Steffi. That is a battle for position with Mike Richter. So he caught up because of him trying to let the leaders through and be nice. They do have Gunderson just behind them. You'll see flashes of him, but that is not for position. Richter and Steffi are trying to settle P9. Richter runs in that maroon and black machine. Steffi and the green, white, and black. This is our closest fight on the track. Most of the front of the field are spreading apart. Run up the hill. This is what lost it for Richter last time when File came through. Is he going to lose another one? Is he lacking top speed potentially? Certainly looks like it, because Steffi going to go around the outside coming into turn 8. Not enough grip there for Jay. Unfortunately, he slots back into that 10th position. Eight minutes left to go on the clock for Aaron Webb. After his damage eventually decided it was too difficult of a car to handle, he's taken it into the pits and has been getting repairs for a couple minutes now. He could yet still come back out. I don't think he hit it that hard, but we'll have to wait and see.
Looked like there could have been some suspension damage when he did hit that concrete, so.
It's really unfortunate after the race that he was running. Meanwhile, battle on screen continues. Jay Steffi hounding Mike Richter. Last time we saw him really gain once the speed came up on this Mario Andretti straight, and it's happening again. I'm starting to wonder if the 51 has some aero damage.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like his top end is there at all, and it really it started, right around the time he went for the pit stop, quicker.
He took White's corner very poorly. This has allowed Steffi to get right underneath him. He thinks about it down into Clayton, but we're not going to see a repeat of the move that we saw before, unfortunately. So he comes back and sets him up, coming through Quebec, falls off slightly. We ride on board with Richter looking over his rear wing.
And just so people know, the two cars that are coming up on Steffi that you see behind the green and white car, those are not for position. That's 14th place Matthew Gunderson and second place runner Christian Grit.
It's a lot closer coming off the corner this time. Look at the weaving that Mike Richter is doing. He knows that he's going to be a sitting duck, and he's trying to break as much of that draft as he can. Steffi has been forced to the outside once more, and this time he's going to be brave about it. He doesn't even have to wait for the inside coming into turn 9. He takes it away before then. Jay Steffi up to 9th place with a solid move. Watch that one more time.
Load up the GSRC replay machine and take a look at that again.
I guess the first time was just reconnaissance, and once he knew what the car could do, there's no stopping him this time. Richter stays within about half a second, but I have a feeling that as soon as they get onto that Andretti straight, we're going to see Jay Steffi start to pull away. A little bit of a battle brewing for P5 too. Andre Espinoza has the 009 of David Cristelli getting very close. He himself is within half a second. Espinoza, one of the few drivers who's actually still racing that has fallen backwards. Almost everybody else has gained positions here today. They're going to get a little bit of traffic. That's Craig Holden, and the maroon car just pulls off to the side and make sure that they have a clear track to get through.
I've been listening to Craig Holden's car here, and something just doesn't seem right with it. He's been out there, he's survived the day, I mean, running in 16th position, but whenever he tries to change gears, it seems like he's always having trouble getting into gear. So I wonder if he's having equipment problems, and that's why he's that far off the pace. But he's still out there turning laps.
I'm curious if he is using an 8-shifter, because this car is a paddle shift car. So, I mean, if that's all he's got is the 8-shifter, then, I mean, that's what you got to deal with. But I guess if it was me, I would make sure that I was using the paddle shifters for this machine. Of course, it could be a clutch problem, too. Good catch on the sound there, Adam. I hadn't noticed that. We'll jump away from him and save him the embarrassment, because P5 is still looking rather enticing. Cristelli now closing it into 0.3 of a second. He's going to start to feel that draft coming up the Andretti straight. Wow, look at that, though. He comes up on him in a hurry, and another pass on the outside, but this time well before they get to turn 8. Cristelli now into the top 5.
I really like how everybody's just trying to make their own passing zone through there, and it's working.
I did not expect him to gather up to the rear of that car that quickly. We've seen a little bit of slipstream, but nothing that dramatic. Let's watch on board. Honestly, kind of bizarre. And I'm not seeing any damage on that number 87. So I'm not entirely sure why he caught and passed him so easily. We've got
very well could be what we talked about at the beginning of the show. Maybe he has some under tray damage that wouldn't be visible from that bump there going up into Moss. I mean, that's a possibility.
That's a real shame if he's been dealing with that almost the whole race and has been slowed down by that, because that qualifying lap was phenomenal from Espinoza. I think we're going to be 2 to go at the line. It depends on when David Holland gets to that front stretch. He's got about 12 seconds back to Gritzko currently as he climbs up the Andretti straight. Keeping half an eye on this battle for 5th, because Espinoza is staying there with Cristelli. Good news for Aaron Webb fans. He did manage to get the car repaired and back out. Can confirm it is 2 laps to go now. Holland just crossed the line with 1.5 minutes left. For now, all he has to worry about is the lap traffic ahead of him. That includes Guillaume that you see just there in front. And of course, avoiding any sort of self-made errors or necessarily hitting that bump down through 4. I think he's got clear track in front of him once again. Gotta wonder what could have been for poor Overbay. Because even though he's in 7th, he's the next car to get lapped by David Holland, if he can catch him. I'm not sure that that's going to be the case.
And keep in mind, I mean, he's running in 7th, but he also had to make an extra pit stop right at the beginning of the race for damage, you know, with the crazy first 3 laps that we had. So, you know, without that, I mean, he very well could be fighting for 4th or 5th position right now.
I agree. I think that probably would have been likely. This car that we ride on board with, this Formula 3, is Christian Gritzko, riding in 2nd, taking that white flag a long distance behind his teammate. The clock has now ticked down to 0. Looking very Sauber-esque, these 2 cars, with that blue and yellow. They come down into the Moss hairpin once more. And from here, there is only 3 more real turns that David Holland will have to navigate. We've had 2 other winners so far, Padavani and Overbay, in the first 2 rounds. We hop on over here to Canada. We're going to get a 3rd different winner and 3 different tracks as David Holland takes his number 18 through turns 8 and 9, up through White's corner. Your winner today here at Motorsport is David Holland. Gritzko should still be pretty pleased with this 2nd place, I think, considering where he qualified down in 7th. Earns points for his team, and Wood follows him home with a podium. Wow, something must have happened to Malbron. Remember, he was close to Wood not long ago, and he's now 20 seconds back, I'm seeing.
Yeah, his lap times dropped off significantly.
Seems to have enough fuel because he's not sputtering to the line. Top 5 is going to be rounded out by Cristelli, who's still fending off Espinoza, but Espinoza has no answer. And then we mentioned it, last car in the lead lap is going to be Overbay. When a 7th is a bad day for you, though, that says something about the kind of pace that you can run. And that's going to close us up here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, but not for the broadcast. We'll have the unofficial results as well as driver interviews up next. But between then and now, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. We watched round 3 here in the PRL Formula 3 series. And as we take a look at the results, you might be looking at it and thinking that it is some sort of multi-class series based on the number of cars that finished on the lead lap. That's not the case. This was a single make series, single class, and David Holland won by about 13 seconds over the rest. Christian Gritzko took second behind him. It was a 1-2 for their team. So they are going to be moving up on that team's championship. Andrew Wood completes the podium with Jose Malbron following him home. And David Cristelli from 13th on the grid to a top 5 himself is no mean feat. Andre Espinoza, one of the few drivers to actually lose places, started on the front row, finishes 6th. He's followed by the only other car to finish on the lead lap, Michael Overbay, who did so impressively with an extra pit stop thrown in there, but he gets 7th place. Mark Feil takes 8th with Mike Richter finishing in P9. Charles Sumner rounds out your top 10. Jay Steffi is next in line in 11th with David Hebert and a P12. Aaron Webb had a big crash, had to come in, get repairs, and came back in 13th. Gunderson himself also took 14th back there. Phil Guillaume in P15, and then Craig Hodden in 16th. From there, you get to drivers who DNF today, and this is a long list. 17th, Eric Luke, Scotty Zerk, Paul Wildridge, Padavani, Gore, Oliveira, Montini, Kita, Spicer, Quint, Santana, Daniel Barnett, Nicholas Delp. This is just within the top 30, mind you. Francisco Montini, 30th. Christopher Richards, 31st. And Jerome Bertone, 32nd. McLaughlin was a did not start today. With that, we've got our winner ready to talk to us. David Holland has joined us in the booth. David, it looked like you were going to have a fight on your hands when the race first started, and then, well, things just kind of went your way.
Yeah, they did. Man, got a great start, and then I think it was Santana ended up losing it coming out of Moss, and then I just, tried to keep it consistent, make my way through traffic, manage the tires, manage the fuel, and it all came together.
Were you in communication with Gritzko during this race, since he's one of your teammates? Were you aware that you had a 1-2 going?
Oh yeah, we knew what was going on, and I was hoping he'd be up there a little bit closer to give me a fight, but man, he ran a great race too. It may not look like it, but this track is a lot of work, and keeping it consistent and out of trouble here, it's tough to do. So congrats to.
I think based on how many cars finished, we have an inkling of just how much hard work this place is. I mean, what's it like from your perspective in the cockpit? Because you had to deal with the same bumps and the same traffic everybody else had to.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's kind of a shame because this track is actually a lot of fun. It just looks like for some reason it may just be a little bit too rough for these cars. And there are places where you can bottom out and it'll just send your car flying off track. You can also hit some hidden bumps and it'll do a little bit of damage to the car and you can lose a bunch of top end speed. So, you had to deal with it and be sure to drive around those.
We'll drive around them, around a lot of other cars, lapped a good chunk of the field. Congratulations on the victory. You're winner number 3 this season.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks to all you guys at GSRC. Y'all are just doing an awesome job. Thanks to Apex Button Box as well. Got to thank the team, Leadfoot Racing. Put in a lot of time, got a nice setup under us. And of course, got to thank the wife for being a good sport. And shout out to my buddies in Midland, Texas. I know y'all have it up on the big screen.
All right, that sounds like some good people to thank there. David Holland, our winner, was followed by Christian Gritzko, second place today. And David mentioned that he hoped Christian would be able to give him a fight. I think Christian probably felt the same, but looked like you did not have the pace of your teammate.
No, definitely not. I mean, at the beginning, it seemed like maybe I can keep up with him, but I guess he was just more in tune with the car. I'm pretty sure we were running the exact same setup, but he was just better out with this car, and I couldn't keep up.
Regardless, there were a number of drivers that you went by, whether it was a pass or they fell by the wayside, going from 7th to 2nd. That's got to feel good, knowing that you kind of survived where others did not.
Oh, definitely. I probably only had one actual racing pass. The other passes that I made were just errors from the drivers going off track, and it's unfortunate that um, I don't know if the races were ended or not, but it would have been nice to have a little bit of a battle going up to the podium. But and I'm not going to complain. It's second place, and it was really fun at the beginning of the race for me.
Next week, we're going to almost the polar opposite of this place. Instead of a lot of grass runoff and punishing walls right next to the track, we've got the paved runoff of Cota. How do you feel about that circuit? Because it certainly seems to divide opinions.
For me, in general, I do love it. It's got a little bit of everything. It is pretty challenging. Normally, I don't like S's on any track, especially at Silverstone, but for some reason, Coda, it just clicks with me. I really enjoy it. I've never experienced the track on iRacing, just in other simulators, but it's definitely one of my favorites, and I hope I can perform for that.
Well, we'll see if you can manage to move one step up the podium into first next week. Congratulations with second today.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you for everything you guys are doing.
We appreciate that. That was Christian Gritzko finishing in second. Behind him, it was Andrew Wood coming home in third. Wood had to deal with Jose Malbron, and we followed his progress through part of the race. Andrew, it seemed like after the pit stops, you had way better pace than Jose, considering you jumped him. Were you playing patient in the first half, or what was going on there?
Yeah, I was running a setup that had a lot of downforce to it, so I actually really didn't have a lot of straight line speed, so Jose really was pulling me around the track. And, I thought I had a little more pace than he did because he made a few mistakes because he'd pull away and I'd catch back up again. And I thought after when I jumped him, he'd actually get me back before long, and then I'd be in trouble again. And he did catch up to me at one point, but I think the dirty air, he couldn't really hang behind me with all the downforce that I had. So once I was able to kind of get my own pace going and everything like that, I kind of slowed myself down a lot, and the tires were starting to get really sketchy at the end there. So just keeping it smooth and keeping it consistent. And I was even closing on Christian at the end there. So it was a really, really patient drive for me, which is not typical of how I drive.
Well, I'd say it paid off. Do you find yourself often running a little bit higher downforce than those around you at most tracks, or is that just specific here to Motorsport?
Well, this track in particular, I had very little practice. I didn't have a lot of time to get on and run some laps, so I wanted a setup that I know I could drive and be comfortable with. So during the practice session, I tried a couple of tweaks to lower the downforce, but all it did was make me a little more uncomfortable. So I just stuck with it, and my strategy was to hopefully just stick with someone for the race and see where it would take me. I was hoping for a top 5, top 3 is even better. So it just all kind of played out the way that lucky for me, I suppose.
Well, you also mentioned the tires at the end of the race, but at the start of the race, it did seem like a number of people struggled with a little bit of lack of temperature in them. Do you feel that's going to continue throughout the season? Is that sort of a feature you've noticed on this car to be consistent at the start of races?
Yeah, the tires do take a lap or two to come in, but even bigger than the tires itself is all like the turbo or the aero wash that you get following a bunch of cars, especially turn 2 here. Like on lap 1, I did everything I could to just lift and try and make it through the corner and pray that I came out the other side. So yeah, I think people were probably having issues on the first lap, just coming in too hot and not realizing all the wash that was coming off the cars ahead of them, and therefore going into the grass and unfortunately ending it.
Yeah, we counted at least 4 that went into the tires on that lap 1 through Clayton. Well, congratulations on third place from 8th on the grid. That'll be a nice haul of points.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely a lot of fun race tonight, and thank you guys for.
Well, thank you very much. That was Andrew Wood, third place finisher here today. And I think that's going to close out our interviews for this broadcast and bring us to our thank yous and credits. A big thank you goes to our sponsor for this season, Apex Button Box. Again, if you want to check them out, see if you could get some of their wares, go to facebook.com/Apex Button Box and see what you can snag that'll help you in your sim racing. Also, check out iRacing on IESN. go to their YouTube page and click the big red button that says subscribe so that you can get all of the PRL Formula 3 series in your YouTube feed. Thanks goes out to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is at GSRC_Graham. We mentioned it. We're heading over to Texas, down across the border for Cota. That'll be Thursday, July 18th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.